at 7 p.m. Pledge of Allegiance will be led by the Township Board. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk Barry, would you please call the roll?
Supervisor Kirsten.
Here.
Treasurer Elliott.
Here.
Trustee Anderson.
Here.
Trustee Joseph.
Here.
Trustee DeMink.
Here.
Trustee Vosberg.
Here.
Clerk Barry is here.
Thank you. Before we get started, I'd like to play for the audience and the board a quick promotional video that has been created to highlight Chesterfield Township. This promotional video was recently played at the State of Chesterfield Township address. I'd like to thank the management staff of Jody Claycomb and Karen Garby for its content. And with that being said, Karen? You can't have it all. When you think about it, maybe that's a good thing. These days, you hear so many people talking about finding balance. In Chesterfield Township, we know that in this fast-paced world of non-stop electronic notifications, virtual meetings, and social media alerts, it's not about having more. It's about having more of the things you need, like a place where you can breathe deeply and reconnect with the natural world. Take a walk in the woods among the towering trees of one of Chesterfield Township's many spacious parks, or watch the sunrise over Lake St. Clair, the heart of the Great Lakes. It's about knowing your children are in quality schools, because in Chesterfield, you have the choice of 3 exceptional school districts. And most importantly, that you have a good home in a quiet neighborhood where you feel safe, because you've got a community around you that you can count on. But balance also means feeling inspired, surrounding yourself with things that make you dream bigger and push further, things that help you grow and be better. Most of all, it's about the peace of mind you feel when you can enjoy all the conveniences of modern life, but still have access to enough open space and the beauty to leave it all behind when you want to. You see, finding balance isn't just about what you do, but also about how you do it. So having it good is nice, doing it good, even better. It's time to live life good, and do it in Chesterfield Township. So as I said, all the thanks for that goes to the management staff. And what our plan is to highlight elements of Chesterfield Township in each quarter, and we hope to expand on those promotional videos and also market them through Macomb County's business department and throughout the region through other avenues. So thank you very much. I appreciate you allowing me that time. Clerk, item number 4, approval of agenda.
Item 4A is the approval of the agenda with addendum if necessary.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Trustee Vosberg, supported by Clerk Barry. Clerk Barry, please call the roll.
Trustee Vosberg. Aye. Clerk Barry, aye. Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee DeMink.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Supervisor Kirsten.
Aye. Number 5, presentations. We have several presentations. Swearing in of 4 new part-time officers, or firefighters. Clerk Barry. Fire Chief Miller.
Good evening, board members. Tonight we have the honor and privilege of bringing before you 3 of our new part-time personnel. We're sorry, but one of them couldn't be here tonight. He's actually actively involved in paramedic school. We told him to stay with his studies and we'll make arrangements later on. But I'd like to introduce to you, if you guys would rise, please, Megan Vanderhoff, Charles Havern, and Alexander Militek. All three have been through the Fire Academy, both in St. Clair County and Macomb County, and they are coming on board with us. They have completed the background requirements, which involve the typical law enforcement background through our detective bureau and the police department, physical abilities, as well as their fire training and certifications, and they are fully prepared to come on board with us to do 1 year's worth of probation with us and make sure that they will fit the bill. We think they're going to do very, very well from what we've seen so far. So if we may impose on Clerk Barry for swearing in our new part-time firefighters.
Thank you, Chief. Please raise your right hands and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and I will faithfully perform the duties
and I will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of firefighter
of the office of firefighter
in and for the Township of Chesterfield,
in and for the Township of Chesterfield,
County of Macomb,
County of Macomb,
State of Michigan,
State of Michigan,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Chief Miller, if they want to take quick photos, they're more than welcome with you, or what's that?
Garvey, do you have yourself? I'll text her these pictures.
If you hold there for one more minute, we need an official photo.
I was gonna send that to Karen. I don't have her cell.
Thank you. Under presentations, item 5B, Captain McNair.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce Bob Stevenson from the Michigan Chiefs of Police to talk about our accreditation.
Evening Township Supervisor, trustees, other township officials, and citizens of Chesterfield Township. My name is Bob Stevenson. I'm currently the Executive Director from the Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police. I've had this position for 10 years. Prior to that, I spent 37 years with the City of Livonia. I come tonight representing the Michigan Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission as we award the Certificate of Accreditation to the Chesterfield Police Department. Oftentimes, as I've seen if I've gone around the state, a lot of times cities don't recognize how good their police departments are. And I'm here to tell you, you have a good police department that has moved it up to, I would say, the excellent police department in the state of Michigan by completing this accreditation program through the Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police. To put this a little bit in perspective and maybe make you appreciate more what your police department has accomplished, in the state of Michigan, there are approximately 600 police agencies. Of those 600 police agencies, 400 of them are municipal agencies. Of those 400 municipal agencies, your police department is number 37 in the complete state of Michigan to accomplish this awarding of accreditation. Put that in another way, your police department has done what 95% of the other police departments in the state of Michigan have yet to accomplish. And it's a tremendous amount of work. Not every police department that undertakes this makes it through it, and you should be extremely proud of the work that your department put into this. So when I started this presentation, I said I'm here tonight on behalf of the Michigan Law Enforcement Accreditation to award the Certificate of Accreditation. We don't give these out. You have to earn them. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to our program supervisor, retired Chief Neil Rosso, to explain to everybody just a little bit more about what your police department had to do to achieve this. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Truly an honor to be here. When I sell this program to the agencies, I tell them that it's attainable, and I really don't go a whole lot into how difficult it is until they get involved in it. Y'all are somewhat familiar with school accreditation. Your kids go to accredited schools. You get treated in accredited hospitals, and I'm sure most of you went to an accredited college. So there's some similarities there. The Michigan Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission has a relationship with Michigan law enforcement, but we aren't involved hands-on like a lot of other agencies are. So that commission set the standards. It's always a group that are close to profession that set the standards for accreditation. There's 108 standards. When I say there's 108 standards, I don't mean to minimize what they have to do, because probably housed under that 108 standards are about 425 tasks that they have to complete. They take those 108 standards, they take the written directives as they lie when they started the program, and they have to weave those directives through the standards, which is difficult enough. And then they have to create these things we call a proof. And that proof is something, it can be a document, it can be a photo. It's something that can show to outside assessors sent here by the commission that the agency is in fact following the directive that follows the standard. So it's just a huge undertaking, and Chesterfield Township PD worked very hard on it. They took the bull by the horns as soon as they became involved and did a great job. Bob and I talk about this all the time. We both had pretty good careers over our lifetime, but there's really nothing more rewarding or more honorable to do than to come into a community and assure them that they have a very good professional police department. So with that, Chief Ron Wiles, Chief of Grand Blanc, who's the current president of the Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police.
Well, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Ron Wiles. I'm the Chief of Police of Grand Blanc Township Police Department, which is in Genesee County, and the president of the Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police. And I can tell you firsthand the amount of work and commitment it takes to successfully complete this. This is a significant professional accomplishment. Like Executive Director Stevenson said, not many agencies have been able to attain this, so you should be very proud of your agency. With that, gentlemen, if you'll join me up here, please. To all who see the certificate, know that the Chesterfield Township Police Department, having voluntarily complied with the standards established by the Michigan Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission, deemed essential for the delivery of professional police services and the protection of their community, is hereby awarded the Certificate of Accreditation, effective this first day of July in the year of 2021, for a term of 3 years. Congratulations. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I personally want to thank Captain Brian McNair, Sarah LeBron, and the staff at the police department. 2.5 years ago, when we reached out to M. Coles to undertake this task, we all sat in an office and realized how daunting it was, and the appreciation that of time and effort in reading and dedicating a night and numerous hours to making sure that I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and then along with making sure that we did institute, and now you institute the proofs to that, is overwhelming. The time is much appreciated by myself And again, I'd like to applaud you and the department in itself for finishing and completing this. I also want to recognize Chief Rosso and Chief Stevenson and Chief Wild. Where did you go? Did you move? Oh. Thank you for coming into our community. Thank you for guiding us. And Brian, please say a few words of appreciation, because we truly appreciate Bob and Neil and Ron, everything that you did for us. I say us. It's not me anymore.
So this process was very long and tedious. We touched all 168 policies in the police department. We went through them, we compared them. I mean, it was tedious. There was no doubt about it. But we are doing the industry best standards now. That's what we are doing. We are providing the highest level of service. We're efficient, we're effective, and we're professional. You know, that's what this accreditation, when it's set out at the beginning, we accomplish it, and that's what we have, and we've had outside people come in now and say that's what we're doing. Policing is under a microscope today, and I'm proud to say we opened our doors to our police department. We allowed outside review and scrutiny. We had the proper policies in place. We demonstrated that we are sufficiently training in those policies and in different procedures, and we met or exceeded all the 108 standards set by MELIAC or the commission. So, and I really want to thank all of our members of the department. They got endless emails from me. I am sure they hear accreditation in their sleep and they cuss me out, and I'm good with that. They read 168 policies this last year. They had to review them. They had to train on them for hours. And I can tell you that they were up for the task because there was not a whole lot of whining and crying, at least that I heard, but you know, maybe it was somebody else. But the members of the department should feel very confident to go out and do their job, because we in administration, you and the board and the community have their back. That's what accreditation means. They took an oath to protect the community, and now we practice what we preach with the accreditation. So we are held to a higher standard in Chesterfield, like Chief Rosso pointed out. But to end this, I would like to specifically recognize our professional standards administrative assistant, Sarah LeBron, and school resource officer, Amanda DePape, for their hard work and dedication after they were voluntold that they had to work with me for accreditation. Despite having young families at home, they worked many 12, 16-hour days locked in a conference room with me. And we ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner there, and it kind of sucked for a little bit, but we got through it. But we completed the mission, and I could have never done it without the two of them. So I want to give them some flowers of appreciation from me. And again, thank you, board, for all your support. Thanks to the community, and thanks all of our officers for putting up with me.
Before you step away, Trustee Joseph has a few words.
I just wanted to say thank you to the leadership in the police department, and this was an endeavor that was started under your leadership as the public safety director, Supervisor Kirsten. You talked about it at the State of the Township, and when you came to the public safety department, in particular the police, you described it as your pride and joy. And this is one of the many benefits of having a very proactive administrative team in the police department. Trustee Anderson and I, as the Police Liaison Committee representatives, had the opportunity to meet with Captain McNair and the staff during the accreditation process and listen to the experts who had come from all corners of the state to talk about best practice. In particular, I think it's important for residents and people in the community to know that, as Captain McNair described, the police departments across the country are under a microscope. And when you talk about use of force, and you talk about community policing, and you talk about high-speed chases, and all of these things that wind up, in the news, To have an accreditation process as elaborate as Chief Russell has talked about is truly remarkable, and it is a major commitment that could not have been done without the leadership in the department. And Chesterfield should be very, very proud of our public safety team tonight. So thank you, Supervisor Kirsten, and thank you to the administrative team in both police and fire. We have an outstanding public safety team, and it is truly one Chesterfield tonight. So thank you.
Thank you.
Real quick before we end, because everybody's talking about all the hard work the department did, but I can speak firsthand, all the sergeants back there can second this. Captain McNair really spearheaded this whole thing. He took this from the beginning. The amount of effort, attention to detail, and professionalism he displayed over the last 2.5 years. He started this project, he had a full head of hair.
So did we.
Yeah. But he really does need to be recognized for how hard he worked through this whole process. They talk about 108 standards. I think we were misled a little bit. But I appreciate it. You know, you got us into it, and Cap McNair got us out of it, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again. If you guys want to go ahead and excuse yourself for photos, we'll give you a few minutes before we move on. Retired chiefs, thank you for coming, and current chiefs. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Department reports. Chesterfield Township has received $228,399.27, which is the bulk of the long-awaited grant for the Weber Paddle Park. The remaining grant funds are in process. The 2021 Sidewalk Replacement Program has finished up last week. The first payment to the contractor Delta Concrete is in this week's bill run. The Treasurer's Office anticipates the full list of residents will be submitted within the next week. At the previous board meeting, the question arose regarding reimbursements for election expenses. The most recent payments received were for the November 2020 election. A check for $2,895.43 was received on 12/18 of 2020 for AV pre-processing of the November 2020 election, and a check for $8,516.75 was received on 9/1 for payment of postage also for the November 2020 election. As you'll see by this slide, taxes collected and distributed. This is a breakdown of the 2021 summer taxes collected and distributed. The Treasurer's Office processed 17,294 payments and collected, big number, $46,943,835.10. The funds were transferred to the county, state, and all listed schools. Next slide, please. I have been assisted by Carrie Whitfield. Yep, please come up, Carrie, on a presentation on Brandenburg Park. I'd like to tell you a little bit about Carrie. She's from the Treasurer's Office. I'd like to congratulate Carrie for her diligent pursuit of professional development. In the last year, Carrie has completed both Microsoft Excel training as well as 3 college courses. Carrie is a significant asset to the township, both as a resident and employee. She's active in the community and serves on the Parks and Rec Commission as well. One of the duties Carrie is responsible for is for processing payments for our Parks and Rec Department, for all of the Parks and Rec Department. This year, the Treasurer's Department, in conjunction with the Parks and Rec Department, began offering credit card payment capabilities. Next slide, please. Carrie, do you want to add anything about that process? You were a big part of that.
Well, it went over really well. The community likes it. Is it working?
Yep, pull a little bit closer, yeah.
The community was really excited about being able to use credit cards for payment, like everybody else is with everything else. So it went over really well, and I think it'll just pick up steam.
Okay. Next slide, please. So as you can see here, the credit card sales ended up being about 20% of the total gate sales for the year. Next slide. The total park revenue for 2021 was $127,455. And Carrie, I want to thank you for tracking this data. Can you tell us a little bit about the pie chart you created for us and the difference between the 4 categories?
Well, of course, you have the Pavilion Rentals, which is renting the pavilions in the building at the park. Prepaid tickets, which is usually just the tickets that people buy if they're having a party at the park. Season passes for just cars, and actually we sell for car and trailer, and then daily tickets.
Thank you. The next slide. So this is the first year we really examined how Brandenburg Park is being used. We decided to break down the revenue and the categories by month. And you service residents daily. Carrie, did you get any feedback in how, say, the trends or the factors in monthly sales are for the season?
Well, you're going to get more sales in the beginning of the season, of course, and they taper off as far as for your season passes. I will say that a lot of people were hoping that the park would be open longer. We had a lot of people requesting to buy tickets at the end of the season for, season passes and utilize the park, and we told them that it's not really open and functioning. So I think you would sell more season passes if it was open longer.
Great, that's a great observation. Next slide. So the Treasurer's Office is tracking trends year to year. And we believe the increase in daily pass sales in 2017 was due to a very warm weather that season. Now, you can see there was a little bit of a dip here in 19 and 20, and then we see the increase again happening again in 2021. Next slide. At the request of Supervisor Kirsten, the Parks and Rec Department began tracking how the park has been used from July 5th to September 6th. This particular graph shows our boat entry usage. You'll see some trends as we begin to track that, and that, of course, is also affected by weather. Next slide. And this slide here will show you the splash pad usage on the peak of the users, which seemed to be at the end of July and early August. This slide illustrates Pavilion Rental. Did you want to expand a little bit on how Pavilion Rental happens and the building's usage?
So we have the pavilions and the buildings over at the Brandenburg Park, and they become available for rent. I believe it starts in early May, might be April, that we start actually booking them, and they go fast. They're booked up for the whole summer really quickly. So I've started to trend the amount of rentals, and then of course the revenue too for it, so we can start. Also, just backtracking a little bit on the splash pad and the boats, since you wanted to start tracking that, we'll be able to go forward year to year and track the trends on those. So.
You've done a very nice job keeping track of the various factors that are, affect Brandenburg Park. And you also did start tracking some of the resident feedback that you were getting at the counter. And I know that next year you plan to add resident and non-resident usage to your spreadsheet as well.
Right.
And so as you can see here, some of the feedback was improve the boat launches, extend the season for building and pavilion rentals, keep the park open all year, and maybe invite some food trucks. So that was great feedback, and I want to thank you for coming out here today and giving us a little bit of an insight on Brandenburg Park. And I just want to thank you also Supervisor Kirsten.
Thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer Elliott. Thank you, Carrie. Clerk Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Two reports, one from the clerk's office and one from the elections department. Absentee ballots for the upcoming November special general election were sent out last week, so everyone should receive the absentee ballot if you've requested one through our office. You should receive that sometime in the next 5 to 7 days. Many people should have received them already. I know I received mine at home just the other day. So those were mailed out on the 23rd. So if you do not receive the absentee ballot that you requested by the end of this week, please contact our office and we will be able to track that for you. You may also track your absentee ballot through our website. Go to the elections page and there will be a link for you that will link to the state's Secretary of State's website that will allow you to track your absentee ballot. But if you do not receive it, please contact our office and we can make sure that you are issued an additional, another one, and then we will void the one that was sent to you previously. Also, with regards to the clerk's office, two things to cover for you there. One is that many people are unaware that the clerk's office does offer notary services for those of you who request notarial services. We do allow that. We do provide that for you. It is $5 per notarial act, and that is available at the clerk's office during our regular business hours, 8 to 4:30. For those who are coming to the clerk's office for passports, we have been advised by the Department of State that there is an extended wait time for processing those passports. Once we send the passport application packet off to the Department of State, it is then out of our hands. And so typically processing time would run between 3 and 6 weeks, but if you are planning a trip, please expect that to be extended 3 to 4 weeks longer. So if you're looking to travel during, after the new year, now may be a very good time to apply for your passport to give ample opportunity for that passport to be processed throughout the holiday season and so forth. There is an additional delay on those, so please be aware of that. Also keep in mind, we do have another late night passport coming up this year yet. You can check our website for all updated information regarding late night passports. Thank you.
Thank you, Clerk Barry. Trustee DeMay.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I have a few announcements from the Leisure Services Department. The Leisure Service Department is coordinating a COVID vaccine clinic with the Macomb County Health Department. Advanced registration is required to be administered a vaccine on October 6th between the hours of 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. Individuals ages 12 and older are eligible for the vaccination, which will be administered at the township offices. Those receiving the vaccine at our site on October 6th will return on October 27th for the second dose of Pfizer vaccine. Visit Leisure Services website or here at the Township 949-0400 extension 4 to make your appointment. Next, the Trunks, Treats, and Tricks is Saturday, October 16th. 3 time slots are available, 12 p.m., 1 p.m., 2 p.m. The dog-friendly hour. Tickets are $10 residents, $12 non-residents per child. Costumes are encouraged for all ages. Each participant will enjoy a trick-or-treat trail, bounce houses, sponsor booth, and head home with a trick-or-treating bag. A pumpkin, a cupcake, and a full bag of candy and toys. Recommended for children ages 2 to 10. Visit the Leisure Services website or here at the township offices to register. Space is limited. Thank you.
Trustee Joseph.
Just a brief update from the library. The library director, Ms. Madsen, would like the residents to know that any adults seeking volunteer opportunities are encouraged to join the Friends of Chesterfield Township Library. The Friends group advocates and raises funds for the library primarily through used book sales. Recently, the Friends of the Library provided a gift of $10,000, and the library is extremely grateful for their generosity. Interactive story times, books, songs, games for babies and toddlers meet weekly. 2, a job hunter clinic is in partnership with the United Staffing Agency will be held at the library on Wednesday, September 29th from 2 to 4:30 p.m. Robert Myers, the Director of Education at the Historical Society of Michigan, will host a presentation on Michigan native Harriet Quimby, America's first woman pilot, on Wednesday, September 29th from 6 to 7:30. That's obviously tomorrow. The movie Percy vs. Goliath will be shown on Tuesday, October 5th at 1 p.m., and adult crafters are invited to gather at the library on October 7th to create some Halloween decorations. Again, thanks from Ms. Mattson, who runs a very robust program over at the library, and I'm very pleased to represent the board on that committee. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you, Trustee Joseph. Department reports. Any department reports? Any department reports? Deputy Duchesne.
From the Supervisor's Office, I'd like to update the board regarding the receipt of funds. 4 checks, grant funded from the Natural Resources Fund for the Weber Paddle Park, $228,399.27. They're now in the books. Additionally, the application process approved by the board to start the application consideration for and potential purchase of state land in Brandenburg Park has been filed and submitted. There is no timeline as indicated prior during the board's submission from the state yet, but we'll keep everybody informed. And on a third point, the construction here at the Township Center, as most would note coming in tonight in front, parking lot and surface, wearing surface has been applied. The front construction has now been enabled for walk-in and walk-out traffic. A point of note, in 2 weeks, the bridge will be replaced. That will not interfere with township business operations in discussions with engineering updated as today. One thought is on the north side, you'll see some of the parking in the drive is not going to be resurfaced until the bridge is done. So there will be an open area there that's still subject to resurfacing, while the rest of the parking and the parking to the south and the southwest has been completed. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Duchesne. No further department reports. Item 7, consent agenda. Clerk Berry.
All items under the consent agenda will be considered routine by the board and will be enacted in one motion. There is no separate discussion of these items. If discussion of any item is required by a board member, it will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Public comments on the consent agenda items are permitted. A, approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of September 14th, 2021. B, approval of the payment of bills as submitted by the Finance Department. C, approve a recommendation to reimburse Taylor Lane for her education tuition in the amount of $5,995 from GL number 205-336-864-000.
Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Clerk
Support.
Berry, second. Supported by?
Support.
Trustee Lossberg? Treasurer Elliott? Comments from the public? Any comment?
John Spica, 53978 Connor Drive. Under the bill run, one of the comments that I'd like to make is, and this is a consistent charge that's on the bill run every month. It's under facilities and operations, and it's for Aztec cleaning. We pay $5,897 every month to clean this building. And I know for a fact, in a year, that's $70,764 just for this building. Plus, we pay another separate charge for the DPW building that they bill us for. Now, I can't see at paying $70,764 how that could be cheaper to subcontract this out instead of having. We used to have an employee here that used to do it, and I know we can get somebody at $35,000 to $40,000 to do it. This, to me, is a ridiculous amount, and when the contract is up, I'd like to see that cut. Thank you.
Any further comments from the public? No further comments from the public? Comments from the board? I have a motion by Clerk Berry, supported by Treasurer Elliott. Clerk Berry, call the roll.
Clerk Barry, aye. Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph. Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Supervisor Kirsten.
Aye. Motion passes. Regular agenda, item 8A. Clerk Barry?
Item 8A, adopt ordinance number 193, an amendment to section 4.29, medical marijuana uses of the township zoning ordinance to permit medical marijuana caregivers in the M1 light manufacturing and M2 heavy manufacturing districts, and to prohibit medical marijuana caregivers as a home occupation.
Do I have a motion to approve item 8A as read by Clerk Barry?
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Joseph,
Second.
second by Clerk Barry. Comments from the public? I'm sorry, Jonathan, Director Palin, please.
Thank you. Yes, this ordinance amendment is, as stated in the agenda, for the medical marijuana caregivers to be moved to the industrial districts where they're currently permitted as a home occupation, which they have been since the beginning of the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. We are required to allow caregivers in some form or fashion, and they have, like I said, have been as a home occupation. It's caused some problems with regard to regulation, knowing where they're locating, knowing if they're pulling permits. It's been a drain on DTE. We've had quite a few conversations with them. This has been in the process for a couple years. It's been discussed and kicked around, and we're finally now getting it here. It did go to the Planning Commission for a public hearing and recommendation for approval. Gary DeMaster is also here if you have any questions regarding the certification process that will now be required, which is the same process we use for all our other businesses in the township, and any enforcement issues that you may be wondering about that have happened in the past or moving forward. So with that, we can answer any questions.
Oh, I'm sorry. Trustee Joseph.
I do, Mr. Supervisor, if I may. Do we know how many residential caregivers we currently have in the township?
There are several. I mean, it's not a large number yet. We're kind of catching it before it gets too out of hand. And I'm sure there are several that we don't know are here too, which we kind of catch over time. But it's no more than 10 probably.
I guess a better question is what's the registration process? Like, how do we know that we have a medical marijuana caregiver operating in a residential district?
The only way we know now is if they pull a larger service or burn the service off the side of the house. And that's how we're catching them, marking them, and then we actually make them bring it up to code, and that's how we know where they are. But there is no way to get into those houses because they're personal houses. So they have them registering, they have been doing illegal installations, and we catch them with neighbor complaints or, odors and nuisances.
Do we get? Do we also get a number of complaints regarding? Well, I know there are very tight restrictions regarding firearms and so forth on the property, but the smell. Having had the opportunity to be in a couple of these houses accompanied with Chesterfield PD. Relatively small number of plants. The home that I was in, the caregiver had already spent considerable money on air scrubbers.
That's right.
Because
Carbon filters and whatnot, yes.
So the power that is drawn from these operations is quite tremendous. Even in a small operation, they use a lot of lighting and they use a lot of air conditioning, the air scrubbers. So you're saying that you basically find out because of maybe illegal taps to DTE or a ridiculous draw.
On the side of the house, right? We catch them, they'll see 5 air conditioners on the side of the house with no permits. That's how we know.
Well, this item came up, just for anybody who's interested, this item came up during our cannabis committee very early on, and this is the appropriate place for that because Chief Craig pointed out too the hazards from just public safety is tremendous because a number of these operations are very clandestine and they're not necessarily dealing with the most qualified electricians when they start tapping into these, and very unsafe hookups.
Now we'll be able to monitor them and get permitting and inspections, and it probably will get professionals doing it instead. If they're gonna put the investment and go into manufacturing, they're going to spend the money and do it right.
Well, thank
And
you,
now,
and-
you know, we'll actually, everybody wins on this except for the caregivers in the home. We get
Well, a lot
police,
of-
fire, building, the code enforcement. It'll be better for all of us.
Well, it's
And
much
Detroit
safer
Edison, too.
operation for sure, and thanks to the planning department for the work on taking this to the appropriate district.
Trustee Domingue.
Yeah, it went through planning, and Dave, you and I and Hank File had talks on this. You know where my stand is on this stuff, but it's better that goes in the industrial. In fact, I just called Gary the other day. I had some residents complaining about in a residential neighborhood, you know, a bunch of foam insulation, and it just reeked. And Gary told me tonight, code enforcement went out there and they didn't even get out of the car, and it just reeked. And it was in a residential neighborhood, nice neighborhood, so it's the way you catch them. I've had a couple people call me, and people don't want to get involved, so I just take the address, and I forwarded a couple over to Gary, so it's the way we catch them, and Brad and I talked about this before when he's public safety director.
Just if I could respond, I can't tell you, Trustee Demink, the seriousness that you're talking about with some of these so-called, the caregiver model was based on a humanitarian sort of, you know, providing, and what we're finding, and I think law enforcement, and we're hearing it from code enforcement and building, is that these operations are operating really inappropriately, because the number of plants are far exceeding the number of patients, and what you're really seeing is a commercial grow operation that is operating under the guise of a caregiver model. And it is tremendously dangerous because you're bringing in an element now that was never intended by the crafters of the medical marijuana legislation. You have, you know, we've heard, and law enforcement has talked about, you actually have cartels coming in that are taking advantage of really outdated and ineffective caregiver-type models, and they're operating massive grow operations like the ones you're talking about. You get out of the car and you can smell it down the whole block, and it invites all kinds of, you know, problems, and I'm sure Chief Franks can attest to, you know, the number of problems associated with a caregiver model that is now morphed into a commercial grow, in essence, operating next to, you know, neighborhoods. So this is a good move by planning, and I know your position, but you are absolutely right. This is where it belongs, and thanks.
Trustee Vossman.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I concur with this as well, for many of the reasons already stated. I did have some questions. I did get some of the answers today from both of you, or from Jonathan, but I'm wondering if you could explain, according to current state law, this is allowed to have grow operations in a home unless a municipality says otherwise? Is that how that works? And what I'm getting at is, what happens to any of the operations that are doing it legally and they're not a menace to their neighborhood or anyone else?
So the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act requires that the municipality allow the caregivers, which they're limited to 72 plants total. I think it's 12 plants per patient, no more than 72 plants total. And historically, from my understanding, what I know, everybody kind of went to home occupation ordinance, especially in Macomb County. And then over the last decade, they've started to move towards this model as we learn what's working and what's not. The current lawfully existing ones would be grandfathered and be able to continue. If they were not, they didn't pull proper permits or they're not operating correctly, they would not be grandfathered and they'd have to comply with the new ordinance.
Okay, so once a currently operating one that is properly operating, if an issue arose, or if they changed their method or asked for a permit for something that we don't allow in residential, that's the point at which they could no longer do it in their house?
Yeah, I mean, they can't expand on a nonconformity, so I don't know when they're already limited. You know, I think in some cases that we would probably talk to Mr. Siebert's office to find out where that stands. You know, if they currently have 2 patients and they want to go to 5, you know, I'm not sure on that one, but it's the use itself, so I think it would probably be grandfathered, but I don't know if there's too much they could do to expand on it. I think it would come down to, they never pulled permits, so they're illegally operating, something to that fashion.
Sure. And the ones, there might be some who are very responsibly operating, and we never know about them because of the fact that they're operating responsibly. Just wanted to just have that information out here that some will be grandfathered. Okay, thank you.
Yes. And just to follow up on that, a little bit more, part of the home occupation requirement, it's where you live. So I would think that if you were a caregiver in your house, that you would probably be grateful for this change, because you probably don't want to smell it 24/7 either, so.
Treasurer Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So this ordinance will not affect our opt-out on recreational marijuana, is that correct?
The two are unrelated, correct?
Thank you. And so it still respects the right of the electorate and also the homeowners to live safely in the community as well.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple comments for myself. This type of industry, hobby, or service does not belong in a residential setting in this community, period. That's my position. And with that being said, I have a motion by Trustee Joseph, supported by Clerk Barry. You know what, I think I missed public comments again. Comments from the public. Any comments from the public? That being said, I'll bring it back up to the board. I have a motion by Trustee Joseph, supported by Clerk Barry. Clerk Barry, please call the roll.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Clerk Barry, aye. Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee DeMink.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Supervisor Kirsten.
Aye. Item 8B.
Item 8B is to establish trick-or-treat hours in the township on Sunday, October 31st, 2021, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m.
So moved.
Motion.
Support.
Motion by Trustee DeMink, supported by Treasurer Elliott. I'm sorry. Supported by Trustee Vosberg. Comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Comments from the board? No comments from the board. Clerk Barry, please call the roll.
Trustee DeMink.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Supervisor Kirsten.
Aye.
Clerk Barry, aye.
Item 8C, Clerk Barry.
Item 8C is a recommendation for authorization of expenditure not exceeding $11,600 for payment to the audit and consulting firm Plant Moran for a project management audit of water and sewer department operations from GL number 591-441-807000.
Do I have a motion to support?
You mean motion to approve?
I'm sorry, motion to support, or motion to approve, I'm sorry.
Support.
Trustee Vosberg or
Elliott.
Treasurer Elliott? Treasurer Elliott. Motion to support by motion by Treasurer Elliott to approve, supported by?
I'll support that.
Trustee Vosberg. Comments from the public or Director Duchesne?
Thank you, Supervisor. The Supervisor's Office, in cooperation with the Department of Water and Sewer Operations, has retained Plant Moran, as stated, to identify procedures, controls, and observe the extent that they are being executed, identify gaps between stated and executed procedures, and identify opportunities for improvements between executed and best practices, focusing on processes in water and sewer operations that will include inventory control, work order systems, preventive maintenance, and capital planning. This includes the scope of their agreement is to review asset management and process, work order assignment, vendor contractor management, inventory and control, and engineering, including the site plan initial review process. We recommend this amount be not to exceed $11,600. The project began with the under $5,000 commitment as we had to discover what extent of the project or the extent of the project would be necessary to continue to completion.
Thank you, Director Duchesne. Comments from the public?
Paul Lafata, 48055 Mallard. This is a new project. Actually, it falls under your Administrative Procedure Order 12-2020. I don't think we followed it. We really don't have a detailed scope of work in a project format. The statement here says that we'll look at the advice from Plant Moran. We're going to have a manager's meeting, and then we're going to bring it to the board. That's kind of confusing because it doesn't bring closure. Does that mean that the township board is going to implement the changes that are needed based on the final summation? The program lacks a program manager or a leader that's responsible to make sure that this happens and get all of the requirements that we're looking for. I don't see the proper allocation, cost allocation for the building use between DPW and sewer and water. That's not even mentioned in here. If we're going to do a rate study, all that stuff's important. It's not in here. It's important. If it's not in your statement of work, you're not going to worry about it. There's been 3 previous studies done. Nobody went back to look at things gone right, things gone wrong. What happened? Why weren't those 3 studies used? Nobody went back and looked at them, but there's been 3 other studies. They all went in the drawer. Nobody used them. Closure. How are we going to get closure? You have to make changes to get closure. You have to have cost allocations. You have to understand what your utilization is for your resources and your building. You have to know how and what data you're really looking for to insert or input into your next rate change calculation. There's one other issue. The 2021 budget, general ledger number 591441087 has $20,400 in it, but on 5/5, Plant Moran invoiced $10,800 against that. So you only have $9,600 left. So you do need a budget amendment, because in your statement it says you don't need a budget amendment. Besides that, you only have 96 against 11.6. You've already spent some amount of money under 5,000 that took away from that. So if you're going to approve this, you better amend.
Time's up, Mr. Lafata.
You should be amending to add a budget amendment.
Thank you.
Or you're not following your own process and procedures.
Thank you, sir. Any further comments from the public? Any further comments from the public? I'll bring it up to the board. Trustee Joseph.
I think that the comments made by Treasurer Lafata were consistent with the email that he sent to the entire board. I would like to know the process for the budget amendment, and maybe the treasurer or deputy supervisor can address that. In terms of the comments regarding previous studies and so forth, I agree wholeheartedly. There have been a number of recommendations that just seem to have gone in the drawer. The difference, I think now, and the reason that I'm supporting this assessment is there were a number of times when the person who was just at the podium was on this board and tried to institute the things that he addressed in his email and in his comments tonight. And the metrics that were used to determine the quality of work or the accountability of the work was measured in confidence and pride. So anytime that there was a comment about the accountability, it was always met with the guy at the top assuring us all that he was extremely proud of the team and extremely confident in the team, so forth. Those are not metrics. Those are subjective terms. Those are not objective measures that we can really look at to determine efficiencies. But I'm going to tell the speaker and any other resident who's interested in this particular issue, one of the things that I like most about this is that Plant Moran seems to have already dialed in on something that I'm most keen to know more about, and that is BS&A, specifically project accountability, project accounting BS&A. And for those that are unfamiliar, the township, as I understand it, after talking to our account representative today, has been using BS&A in various software packages with this township for over 11 years. The account representative attached to the township, Chesterfield Township account from BS&A has great knowledge of what we do as it relates to our finance department, our tax and assessing department. I think those two departments were indicated that are heavily leveraged in terms of utilizing all of the opportunities that BS&A offers. The individual that I spoke to today was about the most diplomatic guy I think I've ever met, but he talked about having a great working relationship with Chesterfield Township, and in particular, Mr. Duchesne. He mentioned that he had worked with Mr. Duchesne going back maybe 10, 15 years. So he knows that our deputy superintendent is aware, our deputy supervisor is aware of the BS&A capability. And for just that reason alone, because there are very, very specific questions, Mr. Supervisor, that if we had the time, I would ask Mr. Coddington to come and I'd ask him a few of these questions. It probably wouldn't be a great night for us because I don't know what the answer would be if I said, can you tell me where all of the meters that we've approved over the last 4 years, can you tell me what meter has gone to what house and how many materials associated with each meter and what individuals worked on each meter, because we don't record these in BS&A. And simply put, any project that is done in the township by DPW, our F&O department, any project imaginable could have a project ID number. It could include any township employee that touches that job. So the employee ID number would be entered in, and then the employee ID number would correspond to that line item in terms of the employee's salary, fringe benefits. So if they work 0.75 hours on a project, we would see instantly what that translates to in dollars. If they used a township vehicle, fuel, parts, everything associated with that project is entered into BSA, and then we don't have the conflicts that we had even just a few board meetings ago when we have a department head that comes forward and says, we're going to do this with in-house labor because there's more bang for the buck. And me acting as the general contractor, and the complaint is always, well, what about the work hours? What about the parts? What about the fuel? What about the township assets utilized in this so-called bang for our buck? I think this is the next step in the evolution of the township. The water department, I give Mr. Coddington, I give him a lot of credit. He tends to be in a position to respond to things on an emergency basis, and that is not the most cost-efficient way to deal with problems. But a Plant Moran study that is very, very connected to smart and efficient accounting practices that are offered by BS&A, I think is the step in the direction that we want to go. You can't have a project that includes 6 or 8 trips to Home Depot or Lowe's to pick up parts in a, you know, that's just insane to do on a project, you know, repetitive basis. And so when you start talking about, you remember a few board meetings ago, we were talking about a potential water rate study. And to pump the brakes on a water rate study until you get an efficiency with some very specifics, but I agree with the speaker, it can't go the way of previous studies where we get a lot of very good feedback, and then we go, oh, well, down the line, we're going to get, you know, involved with. BSNA has trainers, they have a training facility, they have opportunities to teach our people and engage our people online or in person. They will come out, and again, I am thoroughly impressed and spent a tremendous amount of time looking at various videos of all the different platforms that BSNA offers. One area that we might hopefully find in this study is the realization that perhaps a transition over to BSNA for our HR, some of our HR and some of our payroll opportunities could prove beneficial in DPW. ADP is our current provider, and while we can interface ADP and BSNA, it's not quite the same if we're using BSNA in-house throughout. So I think there are a number of things associated with this study that could result in tremendous savings and tremendous opportunities for more efficient departments and more accountability. Those are not bad words. Accountability is not a gotcha type thing, but I don't think we're fully utilizing BSA. In fact, I know we're not fully utilizing BSNA, and perhaps the Plant Moran study can help us formulate a plan to get the training and the familiarity necessary to become a more efficient department. So I'm skeptical of a study. Sometimes bringing in experts is, you know, hiring somebody from another state with a briefcase, and then we say we did something. I believe that this might be different, especially from the introductory sort of feedback regarding the utilization and underutilization of BSNA. So I support this, and I'm encouraged by the opportunity to get real deep into some of our departments and expose some areas that have been overlooked for a long time.
Thank you, Trustee Joseph. My position is, I experienced this, and some of you may remember, you sent ICMA into the police department, and out of that ICMA report that I had to live through, and the evaluation, the scrutiny, the much like the accreditation process that we went through today in 2000, I believe it was in 14. 70 recommendations came from an outside agency. We instituted roughly 60 of them or more, and it's not a bad thing. Director Coddington and I spoke, and my ask of him originally was, what can we do to help and provide technology to make the water department more efficient, more operationally clean, and this was in conjunction with exactly what you described, expanding the BSNA software within our entire organization. So a couple of projects that are all rolled into here. There's a third one that I'll bring to the board in the coming months, and that's the remote water reading system that, again, long-term fits our goal and it fits the evaluation of making us more efficient as a township. A couple of things I want to just point out. This isn't a water rate study. This is an organizational review. This is how can we do better? How can we get better? And I don't think I missed anything. Director Duchesne, did I miss anything that in summary?
No, I think that was, both commentaries were very comprehensive. Again, I emphasize it's a very specific performance audit, a management audit of process and procedures. It is not just simply taking numbers and replicating them. The only other thing I would add is that the finance director indicated that money will be appropriated from this line item, and there is adequate funding in the water and sewer fund to provide for the study, so clarification on that. Otherwise, I think everything else was very well stated.
Thank you.
Mr. Supervisor, just one additional last comment, I'm sorry. The individual that I spoke with BSNA, who has been our account rep for many years, indicated that he's been working with Director Duchesne regarding a presentation to the board and will be coming forward. I thought he said that you, in essence, have had him booked for our first meeting in October. Correct. And I would encourage anybody to that's interested in this. He will provide an advanced packet of information, and he was very interested in any board members who may have questions prior to his presentation. That he said it's not typical for a township to roll out the red carpet for BSNA to talk about project accountability. In this instance, he's received that invitation, and I would encourage every board member to take a look at that packet and learn a little bit about BSNA, because it's a phenomenal software package that we need to get more engaged in my opinion. But thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from the board? I have a motion by Treasurer Elliott, supported by Trustee Vosberg, to approve item 8C. Clerk Berry, please call the roll.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Supervisor Kirsten.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye.
Item 9, addendums. There are no addendums. Item 10, public comments from the public. There's a 5-minute time limit. The clock will begin when you first speak.
Paul LaFata, 48055 Mallard. Treasurer Elliott went through and some of the revenue from Brandenburg Park. I'll just go through some of the expenditures. If you looked at the Plant Moran audit, there's a note for capital asset expenditures. Brandenburg Park in 2020 committed $1,680,459 to the park renovation. Prior to that, OHM invoiced in 2019 $93,000. OHM is still invoicing. There's still invoicing coming in from the contractor for Brandenburg Park. So when you look at the revenues and you look at the money that the township sunk into Brandenburg Park with the grant at $830,000, there's a lot of money going in there. I walked around the park myself. We have concrete slabs that are in violation of our own ordinance. We should be setting the example. We shouldn't be telling residents they have to have their sidewalks fixed when we have the same thing in our park where we charge people fees to come walk around. There's quality issues on the work that's there. There's rust spots on all of the courts that were refinished. The paths have craters in them that water sit, and the pathway's really not fit to walk on because one of the women had flip-flops and she says, I can't walk on this pathway. The rocks are too coarse and I can't do it. She was walking on the grass. The pier needs fixing. There's a bench that's got yellow caution tape wrapped around it. 3 weeks that I know of, I'll get some material and I'll donate it and bring it to the township in the next couple of days. Maybe somebody can slap it on there. But when you look at the revenue and you look at the expenditure and what really needs to be done, there's some real maintenance that needs to be done there that hasn't. It's a glorified fish pond right now. And the people that were fishing there the other day don't even realize that the fish they catch has PFAS in it from Selfridge Air Force Base, and they really shouldn't be eating it. But if you look at everything that's over there, there's big slabs of cement. Somebody can put their ankle in there and break it. We talk about liability for sidewalks. We created some liability when we upgraded the park. Somebody needs to take a walk through there, take a serious look at it, because there's issues. We shouldn't be telling our residents that they need to pay to fix their sidewalks, and we don't take care of our own house. We should be benchmarking. We should be setting the example. And when you look at the amount of money we've spent there so far and the amount of money it's going to take to bring it up to quality standards, we got a long way to go. Thank you.
Any further comments from the public?
Good evening, Township residents and Chesterfield Board. There's an article in The Voice dated September 1st, 2021. It's titled, "Wasted Tax Dollars, Increased Water and Sewer Rates." Economic efficiency is an economic state in which every resource, labor, equipment, and materials are optimally utilized to provide services to the residents of Chesterfield in the best way while minimizing waste. Utilization is the action of making use of available labor, equipment, and materials and making efficient use of them. Utilization is measured on how well Chesterfield management uses its product capability, labor, equipment, and materials. Outsourcing has become a normal operation process in Chesterfield. Grass cutting, snow removal, building, cleaning, plumbing, electrical, heating, generator maintenance, ordinance updates, and now the approval that happened on August 25th, 2021, the Township Board meeting to outsource the water and sewer bill printing and mailing. The available resource that currently print and mail the water and sewer bills, labor has not changed. Outsourcing reduces in-house labor utilization, the cost to provide a service increase. Treasurer Elliott's yes vote contradicts her campaign promise for full cost analysis. It does not include optimal utilization of current labor resources. Quoting Treasurer Vosberg's justification for her yes vote, the employees will have more creative time. There was not a full cost analysis, and more creative time, less value-added productivity equates to wasted revenue. The outsourcing of the water and sewer bills without a full cost analysis can contribute to the increase in water and sewer rates. Chesterfield residents, it is the new economic trend when you go to the grocery store to buy a pound of coffee. The price is the same when you get home and put the coffee on the shelf. You notice that there were only 14 ounces in the package. You pay the same and get less. This was by one of our residents, former treasurer Paul S. Lafata. Mr. Lafata is spot on with that. Another thing that I want to chime in on is what Mr. Lafata talked about was Brandenburg Park. This is a great photo op here, guys. Love it. But when it comes to governing, there's more than just photo ops. I went to Brandenburg Park myself to check it out. We always talk about neighboring communities up here. Well, let me give you a neighboring community, Dodge Park. When I went to Brandenburg Park and walked around, I noticed that the same picnic tables that were lined up at the beginning of the summer are still lined up now. They're lined up against the pole barn. They've been there all summer long. There's a sign where the bushes are. That sign's been down. The bushes have been down. They've been down all summer long. The barbecues there, if a resident tried to barbecue, the barbecues are in horrible shape. Before I would be taking a photo op, I would make sure that the residents in this park is in top shape. I mean, Mr. Lafata said we've spent millions of dollars in this park, and we still can't get it right. What is the problem? And another thing that I'd like to bring out is if we can get an update. I know the clerk at the last meeting said that there was some tampering going on in the clerk's office, so if we can get an update if, the police have come up with anything or if we found, what the issue is. And then another thing that was brought to my attention is if the clerk can comment, I was told that there's an ongoing investigation by the state police in the clerk's office, and maybe the clerk can explain why to me. And then Treasurer Elliott, if purchasing and credit card policies going to be changed to make the clerk personally responsible for any non-conforming purchases that are made in the clerk's office? If you can answer that. I know when Treasurer LaFata was in office, the credit card was locked up, and you had to have permission before he handed that credit card out. So I know you're trying to tighten things in the treasurer's office, so I wanted to see if this was a main focus in trying to tighten it. Thank you, and good night.
Thank you, sir. Any further public comments? Bring it back up to the board. Trustee Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The first thing, congratulations are in order for our 4 new part-time Chesterfield Township firefighters, specifically Megan Vanderhoff, Ryan Holm, Charles Halvern, and Alexander Militek. I'd also like to congratulate our police department on successfully navigating the Michigan Law Enforcement Accreditation process. As was mentioned during that presentation, our department is in the top 5% of 400 plus municipal police departments. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Trustee Joseph.
Thank you, sir. Just a couple quick comments on the speakers tonight. I'm sure that they're aware questions posed to the board are really at the prerogative of the board member in terms of answering. With regard to the concerns about Brandenburg and the photo ops, I really don't know what else to say except that we seem to do a great job on the front end of projects. The maintenance is always the area that is the most frustrating. So we have a lot of committed Parks and Rec members, one of them who's here tonight, a township employee who then volunteers and spends tremendous time. I know just watching her as the speakers were talking, it feels like a rebuke, and it's not. It really is not. The commitment to the parks is, I think, universally shared. There's a real love for leisure services, but funding them appropriately is key, and making sure that there is money for the maintenance of these projects. And when we take on multi-million-dollar projects like the shoreline restoration, we have to bake into that a commitment to maintaining it in an appropriate way. We have had an abundance of opportunities to take pictures on the shoreline. I think this was about the 4th or 5th ribbon cutting that was in the paper. What's needed is that same commitment to the maintenance. So being able to continue the good feelings that are always abuzz at photo op time is really the key, and it is right to talk about the budget inclusive of maintenance. So I want to thank you, those of you that are committed to the park and the leisure services. Trustee Demink is very proud of his work on that committee, as he should be. They do a lot of great things, and the advisory board that he sits on is commendable. So I think we're speaking kind of the same language. With regard to law enforcement and a state police investigation, I do not believe that the state police investigation was tied to the issues involving food and lunch boxes and so forth. I understood, and I sent an email to the clerk and the supervisor's office when I was advised that the state police were conducting an investigation, and I'll leave it to Clerk Berry. I will say that I have been troubled, was troubled even during the election and last summer with areas of concern. I reported them to the Attorney General, to the Secretary of State, and to my fellow board members. I will continue to call those things out when I have concerns and report to the proper authorities. But at the end of the day, it is the voters that decide who their representative will be. And I've learned from previous mistakes that going on my own individual crusade to, stamp out things that I think are inappropriate are probably not appropriate. That I stay in my lane when I see things that I think are inappropriate and that rise to the level of obligation to report. I make those reports. I have boatloads of emails to support my statement that when I see something that is inappropriate, in my opinion, I report it. The mistake is bringing it to the board and infusing it in all of our debates and dialogue, because it then does a disservice to the residents, because it's hard to separate individual items. And so I feel like I've not been the best that I could be by allowing those things to interfere in the deliberations on issues that have nothing to do with my concerns about transgressions. So I'll leave it at that, and then let the clerk, if she chooses, discuss what's going on with the state police and so forth in her department. The next thing I'd like to point out is this weekend we had the North Gratiot Cruise. It was a little bit of a rough start, a lot of rain, and there was some concern that it would be a washout, and as it turned out to be a great day. We have so many great businesses in the township that support the cruise and sponsor the cruise. It was nice to see residents out on what I think is probably the last big cruise event of the season. And I was stationed over at one of the event sponsors, Biggs. Biggs Bar and Grill has always been a great contributor to the township, and any township event. I was out there with my buddy, Badge 55, Dylan Riker. We were giving snow cones and waving at the cruisers all afternoon. It was a great day, and I bring up Biggs because Mr. Vendetti, who has taken great interest personally in the township and is always there to be called upon, was at the cruise manning his business, and his parents are struggling with health issues, and it was very, very difficult for Mr. Vendetti to be there. Unfortunately, because of COVID policies, he couldn't be with his father if he wanted to anyway, and we got word yesterday that Mr. Vendetti passed away. A tremendous loss to our township, and I would ask residents to keep the Vendetti family in their prayers. Mike is a wonderful, just a great guy all around, and their family is really struggling. So please keep them in your prayers. And I would like to close by echoing the sentiments of Trustee Anderson as to what a great night it was in our township for our public safety team. And there aren't a lot of communities where you see such a great working relationship between police and fire. Sometimes in communities it expands past a friendly rivalry, and it gets very cutthroat in terms of the competition for revenue and vibrancy and the ability for both departments to exist. In this community, it is really quite incredible to see the support that each department has for one another. And that is a testament to the leadership, Chief Miller, Chief Franks, Captain McNair, and all of your administrative team in both departments coalescing around each other, and our business partner, our nonprofit partner of MedStar. It is truly one Chesterfield when it comes to public safety, and I think the Public Safety Department is rightfully held up as the pinnacle of a phenomenal organization, and I'm so proud to see what we saw tonight and to be part of everything that you guys do, which is just truly awe-inspiring and admirable. So great night for Chesterfield, and thank you.
Trustee Deming.
Same thing as Trustee Anderson, Trustee Joseph. Congratulations to the 4 new part-time firefighters. I wish you the best. Stay safe. It's different out there. And to the police department, Captain McNair, Captain Franks, and the whole team at the PD on the accreditation. I know it's a big task I went through it where I'm at my PD a while back, so I know what you guys did. A lot of work going through those SOPs and Power DMS, and you get tired of reading this stuff, but you got to do it. It's all part of the accreditation. So great job, Brian, Ken, and your whole team of guys and gals over there. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Trustee Vossberg.
Thank you. Also want to, same thing, compliment the fire department on their 4 new firefighters and the accreditation of the police department. And also an item that we approved earlier in the evening under the consent agenda, and that was tuition reimbursement for firefighter Taylor Lane, who completed the class for paramedic and also obtained her license. So I think that great asset to the fire department and to the entire team, and I encourage additional employees, seek whatever additional education you can. Thank you.
Treasurer Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. First of all, this has been a very productive and professional meeting, quite enjoyable. And I just want to thank all of the board for just a great evening. It looks like we're going to wrap up pretty early. I also want to congratulate Supervisor Kirsten for giving us first state of Chesterfield this week. You did a great job, and you did a great job with the video as well. Your voiceover was great, and I know those aren't easy, but you did a great job, and you're just a great asset to the community. I also want to give kudos to the public safety for, and echo everybody else's comments tonight. As Trustee Demink mentioned SOPs, standard operating procedures, and it made me think about my staff, and I want to thank Carrie once again for coming in and sitting through the board meeting and for your diligent work. And we have another person in our office who is working on standard operating procedures for the treasurer's office, and she'll be here to present that here hopefully in a month or so. And I also would like to comment on ordinance number 193 that we passed tonight, and that it does respect both the Michigan electorate as well as the right of homeowners to live safely. Grow operations in residential buildings have been known to create unsafe conditions in homes. Chesterfield Township continues to opt out of recreational marijuana, and we are here to serve the residents in their best possible manner. And I would ask Clerk Barry to please add my comments to the official minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer Elliott. Clerk Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I appreciate the questions tonight, and it gives me an opportunity to actually highlight some of the best things about your Chesterfield Township Clerk's office that I'm very proud and honored to be a leader of. First question with regards to the employee property that was tampered with, or there was concern that had been tampered with. That is really probably a question for the HR department. Those were individual employees who made complaints to the Human Resource Department, and they are managing that concern. So I was simply trying to assist in any way that I could, since those employees, a couple of them were from my department. So with regards to that. Secondly, again, why I am so proud to be working with some of the folks in our elections department. The Chesterfield Township Clerk's office was contacted last week by County Clerk Anthony Forlini. As you may be aware, perhaps you've heard about it in the media, there are a number of citizen activist groups and individuals, as well as paid political operatives, who are engaging in an operation to expose election fraud in Michigan. And part of that operation, those operations, involve looking at voter lists and contacting voters and finding out if they in fact voted the way that they said that they did or they thought that they did, and trying to find if there are any issues with regards to voter records. So it is not anything to do with how the election was conducted or the results thereof. It had to do with voter record issues. And so these are things that are being collected all over the state. And I was contacted by the county clerk that 5 affidavits had been filed or submitted to his office of 5 issues in Chesterfield. And as a result, the Michigan State Police and the Election Integrity Division of the Federal Bureau of Investigation were looking into those affidavits. Again, they're not only here, they're all over, but we had 5. The county clerk at that time advised the agents and officers that they should really be consulting with the local clerks, as we are the ones who hold all of those records. So we worked in conjunction with those other agencies, the county clerk's office, the Michigan State Police, and the Election Integrity Division of the Federal Bureau of Investigation to investigate those 5 affidavits. And I'm very proud to say that they came into our office at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and by 4:30, we had all of the records pulled that pertain to those 5 particular voters. And in another hour later, they left our office saying that they were very impressed by the work that we did, and each and every one of the concerns in those affidavits were unfounded. The Chesterfield Township Clerk's Office and our Elections Department received a clean bill of health, and that there was absolutely no reason whatsoever that they saw to open a criminal investigation. So there was no criminal investigation. It was simply an inquiry into 5 affidavits that had been collected by a third party and submitted to the county clerk's office as issues of concern. So we were very happy to have turned that around inside of 5 hours and got to the bottom of every single one of them. And that is a testament to the organization and the best practices that we follow in the clerk's office in regards to not only elections, but all clerk's operations. And it's much like the operational audit that's being done in the DPW department. Again, I agree with Supervisor Kirsten. It's a benefit in any department, and we do those regularly and have almost every year since I've been clerk, do the similar type of assessment and evaluation. So we every year will attempt to make things better, employ best practices. We stay updated on certifications and all of the best practices as suggested by our professional organizations and associations. And as a result, we were able to turn around that information inside of 5 hours and basically have it be an open and shut case. And then the agencies that we worked with, they do still have an ongoing investigation. They will still be contacting those individuals. But as far as their involvement or our part of getting to the bottom of all of that, that has been completed at this time. So there should be a report available that they will file in the coming weeks, and we will be requesting a copy of that report. And of course, at any time there's any concern by any individual voter about their personal voter record, about any way that we conduct the elections, whether it have to do with absentee ballots, whether it have to do with election day activities, anything of that nature, you can always contact the clerk's office, and we would be more than happy to sit down with you, go through your individual voter record, pull all the proper documentation that we have, all the records that we have, whether it pertains to yourself or it pertains to any processes or any training that we do and how we do and maintain and conduct elections or any operation in the clerk's office. We're very, very proud of and have been recognized not only in this case, but also by our professional associations as being some of the best practiced clerk's offices, I would argue, anywhere in the state. And that's really a credit, again, not only to our vision and our goals and our constant reevaluations, but also the proficiency of our staff and their adherence to those best practices. So that is what occurred here, and we're very pleased with that, and certainly keep the board updated if we should hear anything differently. Thank you.
Thank you, Clerk Berry. I'll try and make this quick. Nothing but pride with the police department and their accreditation. I had the honor to wear that uniform for over 30 years, and the culmination of what happened tonight with the accreditation and being recognized from your peers throughout the state, it's it almost brings tears to my eyes. The time and effort that they dedicated, Captain McNair and his team, over the last 2.5 years to reach that goal. The whole department as a whole, as Captain Franks had, or Chief Franks had indicated, there's a lot of time and effort put to it, and nothing but pride. The cleaning service contract. We are in the budget process now, and that contract is being scrutinized and looked at, and we'll evaluate it and develop it, and it may remain in the budget, it may not. Again, that's an evaluation that's underway. As Trustee Joseph had said, studies sometimes go in the drawer. No study will go in the drawer here. It will be public, it will be transparent, and it will be issued, and that's how I intend to move forward. And I'm not implicating it that was done in the past, but once that report is done, good, bad, indifferent, ugly, it will be publicized. Roads, streets, and sidewalks is something that I've been dealing with, and we've had some exchanges with the Macomb County Department of Roads. I thank Trustee Vosberg, and we've had several meetings and more coming. This is a growing issue. It has been mentioned and addressed by the board in the past years. This issue is not going to go away. The Public Act that provides funds to Chesterfield Township, basically, we don't have any control over. So we are trying to at least form a committee, where I will propose a committee to sit and try and address that issue moving forward. Brandenburg Park, I asked Treasurer Elliott some time ago. Brandenburg Park has never made a profit in this community, never. That's why the last board meeting, I said, we need to own it. We need to own all of it. The tours that were taken by both citizens that walked around and pointed things out, those grills aren't owned by Chesterfield Township. They belong to the state of Michigan. And I believe that the state of Michigan needs to pay closer attention, or at least partner with us in a greater detail to fund and sustain that park for the future. The lists were received. I'm acknowledging that, yes, there is a list. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and it is on the books, and we are processing it. There is warranty work that is also going to occur, and I've been told from the vendor and the manager that it will probably occur in the spring based on schedules and availability, and then also some evaluation that still needs to take place on the work that was being done. The comment of outsourcing, yes, outsourcing, again, predecessors. It's an evaluation process. It takes time, and we have to look at the studies, and we have to look at the numbers and see where it does take us. But that process is underway. And as was mentioned tonight here, we need to put systems in place to where we can get the real information in real time that provides us with the ability to make those decisions. Unfortunately, we are fragmented right now, and that is not anyone's fault. That is the environment of this township, where it has lingered for many years. And my initiative, as I said in the beginning, is going to work to develop systems to where these evaluations can take place on a daily basis, monthly basis, and a yearly basis. And it does guide us to make better decisions. I had the complete honor, and thank you, Treasurer Elliott, I had the complete honor of giving the State of the Township address at the Macomb Chamber event on Monday. 3 months on the job, yes, I was nervous. There was a diverse audience, and I wanted to make sure my main goal was not to embarrass Chesterfield Township. And I hope I achieved that. That, along with the video that the management team developed and created, is really, again, another area that I really want to start focusing on, is promoting Chesterfield Township, making us a great community to come to, even better than we are now. One of my slides and one of my approaches that I've undertaken, and many of us have gone up I-75, and you go by University Drive and you see a big placard hanging over the overpass that says, "Welcome to Auburn Hills." We initiated conversations with the MDOT. Why can't that happen here in Chesterfield? Why aren't we recognized when you come up the I-94 corridor by some level of recognition and identity? It's going to be a work in progress. I'll continue to work on it. The good thing is MDOT gave us a positive response. Yes, there is a cost to it, and we haven't reached that place yet, but the design and the conversation is underway. The other thing is the interchanges. You go up 75, you go to Frankenmuth, Birch Run, 69 and Davison, and their interchanges are mowed and manicured. Like Hall Road, you drive down Hall Road, there's a lawn mowing maintenance crew. Again, another area that I want to focus on, why isn't that occurring here in Chesterfield? That our interchanges should be as clean as they are in Auburn Hills, in Frankenmuth, and that's a task that's underway. So with that being said, I go back to my state of the township. My hope is I didn't embarrass anybody. I hope I promoted, and that will be, again, an expanding role that I want to really work on, is promoting Chesterfield Township on every level. So with that being said, I appreciate everybody tonight. I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to adjourn.